to this week's episode of Family Tree Talk, where we're thoroughly immersed in the world of family history. My name's Helen Tovey, I'm editor of Family Tree, and with me as usual is my podcast co-host, Nathan Ward. And we've been doing a podcast for about a year, and we've had a lot of fun looking at a lot of interesting topics. Today, we are going to touch on a bit of a sad, depressing topic, because we're weaving through those core family history records, and we've covered the census and birth and marriage records. So now there's no escaping it. We're going to have to cover death records. But hopefully we're going to put a bit of a happy spin on it, because we're going to be so excited about all the sorts of things we can learn about our families from those records of death. They're not just a kind of final nail in the coffin. They shed a lot of light on people's lives. So, Nathan, do you think that sounds interesting?
It sounds quite dark if you ask me, but yes, let's do it.
It is dark, but it honestly, like death records, there's something which when we have those records of death in our living ancestors' lives, then clearly that's a really dark space in each of our families, our lives and the lives of our loved ones. But from a family history perspective, they're interesting and useful. People used to before it was easy to research things online. People would put death records at the bottom of the list, because you know how you said in the past that you love birth records because you're finding out about the parents' names, the dad's occupation. Love marriage records because you get that extra generation. And then death records can feel a bit of a damp squib because it's kind of more focused solely on that person.
Yeah, I think like from my perspective, I have actually ordered a few death records. But it's always been out of curiosity to find out how someone's died. So if it was a young death, that's drawn me in, and I've said, all right, okay, I need to find out why they've died. And I guess it's again that context of how that family's dealing with life, isn't it? It's like this guy's died young. How's that affected everybody else? And what did he die of? And where did he die? And equally as well, I think I've looked for some people where it's like been the woman who's died in childbirth. So that obviously then gives you the clues for the baby, etc.
I mean, that's right. That's one of the key bits that I find really interesting as well. It's that cause of death, because sometimes you can see people dying young of things that today, with modern medicine, we're really grateful that we have a much better chance of survival. Or you see people dying. My great granny's sister died in the Spanish flu. So in 1918, there's a young woman. So you see people, you see their passing as part of a bigger picture of what's impacting not just your own family, but loads of families across the country, across the world. So it doesn't take away the sadness, but it still is interesting and gives you insights to what your family must have felt like. That kind of sense of dread we all had the whole time COVID was happening back 5 or so years ago. We're not the first generation to feel that, and sadly we won't be the last. But it's just those points of connection across time. I think that counts for a lot in family history. It can be quite, what's the word, like grounding, or didn't it, to have that sense of time?
Yeah, definitely as well. It's like social context, isn't it? Put it into historical perspective.
Mm.
Mm.
And occupation-related deaths as well. That's kind of tragic. We all joke about health and safety, but it's pretty good, really.
We spoke to the guy about the train accident. That was quite interesting, wasn't it?
Mm.
I've not had any interesting deaths as accidents. They've all been like illnesses.
Mm.
It seems to me like actually, as much as I say that I'm really tight, I've gone nuts with death records. They're the ones that I've like actually ordered the most.
How intriguing! Yeah.
And if I'm honest, it is only out of personal intrigue that I get them. So it's bizarre that I actually will spend my money on these records, whereas obviously said like the marriage certificates are much more intriguing for me.
It's interesting because you come into research in the last year or so, and so you can get the JPEG images of the death certificates, because your ancestors are largely England based, aren't they? And so for £3 you can actually, it's kind of fairly prompt. It's not too expensive. It's not mad money. It is literally the kind of, well, be lucky if you got a cup of coffee for the price of a death JPEG image, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. It is that intrigue thing. It's like, all right, how did this person die? Okay, I will spend that £3 quite quickly and find out. And it is, you go through the payment process, and minutes later you actually know the results. It is good.
For because you're going to soon, I'm really hoping, because last year we both said lots of things we wanted to do with our family history, and I think we're both having a little bit of a revisit and trying to maybe get onto them. I think we might be. We're going to take your family tree into Scotland and see what you can find out at some point.
Yeah, I'm terrified.
Yeah, but you won't be terrified because thinking about the death records, then you'll be able to get copies of the death register entries for your ancestors. I think it's up until the last 50 years. You can just get them online. They're about £1.50. It's done on a credits basis. You have to buy some credits. Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty cheap. That's pretty nice. In more recent times, you have to order a certificate, which is much more money, like 12 quid. But you're going to be able to make. You're not going to be in that time frame. You're going to be further back. You're going to be looking at Victorians and early 20th century, I think, aren't you?
Yeah, I might need to try and get a bit further back on my tree for that, I think. 'Cause
Yeah.
obviously, all mine migrated down to Yorkshire, didn't they? So
Yeah.
the deaths usually seem to happen in Yorkshire. So I might need to try and get a generation back on that line before we get to Scotland.
Yes, but don't get too far back because although we're getting really excited about these kind of birth, marriage, and death records that we looked at the last couple of weeks of the podcast and today, thinking about death records, I guess mainly we're largely concentrating on the state records, so the civil registers of birth, marriage, and death. But obviously, they have a starting point, so they're all mid-Victorian, whichever country you are in the British Isles. So from England, they're going to start 1837, but for Scotland, you can only get them from 1855 onwards, and before that, you're looking at the burial registers, and you know that. You said that feeling when you get earlier in the 1800s and the records get harder.
Yes.
You don't want to go too far back, Nathan. You want to keep that sweet spot.
Okay, I'll sit in it for a while then.
Yeah, late 1800s, early 1900s, and then the research is kind of the records are just more available, more readily available, more detailed.
Okay, cool. I actually ordered a death certificate the other day.
Oh yeah.
So doing my homework, which is I'm trying to find lost babies, the 1911 census. I had one set where there were 12 births and only 6 living children.
Insane. Yeah.
So I thought that's a big one. I'll give it a quick go. And there's lots of layers to this. I don't know if I'll go into it all, but I found 9 children of the 12. I've accidentally found some of the missing children without knowing it.
Oh really? So how did that happen then?
I can't remember. I think some of them must appear on the census briefly, different ones.
Yeah.
2 of them I actually had to do this random search for, so I found them in between censuses. And yeah, it was just a combination of getting a few on the census and a couple not, and then seeing who's still alive and who's not. Because I did actually wonder before I started this journey, like, because I had 6 or 7 people already, could some of those potentially be the lost children? Because obviously the census is taken, they could have died the next day. So that's taken quite a lot of untangling. I think I've found the 6 surviving, the ones that were deemed to have lived. I don't know how to phrase this properly, but that, and then like I say, I found 2 more in between. So it's quite sad. It made me feel a bit depressed. I was quite amused though. The first 2 children that this couple had were called Mary and Joseph, which I just thought was silly, but whatever. Not born near Christmas at all. Anyway, to the death records. So an intriguing thing appeared on this one where it was Benjamin Ward and Grace Turner, and on the this is going to be tricky to remember now. On the 1911 census, Grace Turner appears, and she's married, and she's got one of her children living at home who's quite old. She's in I can't remember now, 30 or 40s, let's say, and the mother's in her 60s, but she's down as married. And then it's obviously got the numbers 6 and 12, 6 and 6 for their 12 births, 6 dead, 6 alive. So I'm like, if she's still married, where's the husband? So then I went back to the 1901 census, and she's on there again as married, but he's not there. So I went back again to the 1891, and it's the same situation again. She's there with lots of kids, but the husband's not there. So I then went to try and find the husband, Benjamin, who doesn't appear on the census is 1891, 1901, or 1911 by himself. And eventually I found a document that he'd been put in Menston for lunacy. At the age of 43, he was institutionalized and was there for 29 years.
Wow.
He died in 1918, and that's what prompted me then to obviously buy the death certificate to see if it gave any details of why he was in the institute.
So that begs so many questions. So he's in. Has he already had all his children by the time he gets institutionalized?
Yes, the last child was born, I'm going to say 1881, around that point, and he wasn't. He was institutionalized in 1889.
And from the other records you've got for that family, have you found out like what his occupation, what occupation did he have over those years? Can you tell from like children's birth certificates? Have you got any clues?
It told me on the previous census. Bear with me a second and I'll confirm such details. It was really sad to look at though. Like, imagine this, because that woman spent 29 years by herself raising these children in the household. It just seemed awful. And obviously, combine that with 12 births and only 6 surviving children, it was heartbreaking.
And that woman who is what, your 2 times great granny?
Third.
3 times great granny, yeah.
According to the census, it looks like he worked on the railway.
Oh yeah.
Something layer on railway.
Late layer?
Late layer, exactly that. Yeah.
Late layer.
I was going to say late layer, but it made no.
Well, I think is it plate layer?
Oh, it could be plate layer, yeah, because it's an over accentuated P. That's actually in the next column above. Yeah, plate layer on railway.
And how old is he in that census?
He's 36 at that point.
So he's already married and he's already got some kids at that point. So he's
got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 living kids on this census.
And then so he's going to go on, or he might have already had some of the other 12 children, mightn't he? But they might have already.
Well, according to me, at least 2 of them. Yeah. But maybe suggesting obviously more because of when it gets institutionalized.
So he's trying to think about why his life took that turn, and that he was it? What did you get a diagnosis? Did they say it was lunacy, or what did they say?
It just says lunacy.
Yeah.
There's no actual, unless I'm missing it on the document, there's no actual facts about what was wrong with him. He died of acute bronchitis. So nothing to do with whatever was wrong with it. On the death certificate, it actually says 7 days, no P.M. I don't know what that means.
No post-mortem.
Right.
Yeah. So it means the 7 days means he suffered from his acute bronchitis for 7 days.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was 72 at the time as well.
Yeah. So, you just mentioned, you said the railway guy. So the railway guy is Dr. Mike Asbester, who runs the Railway Work Life Death Project. So have you looked for your ancestor in that database? Because if so, that would be really interesting to see. Because in the past they would record a broad brush diagnosis of what was wrong with our ancestors, and it doesn't give much clues to their mental health. But even today, it's stressful working on the railways, and people who are involved in railway accidents of some kind, you can get PTSD, and that's something that we're really familiar with, those ideas, aren't we? Whereas potentially he could have been involved in a railway accident, either a personal injury or some sort of other accident, which causes him stress, and before you know it, you're drinking too much, and before you know it, everything's falling to bits. So that could be worth looking at, just on the off chance. It's so easy. Off the top of my head, as ever, I can't remember the name of the website, but if you Google Railway Work Life and Death Project, Mike Asbester, so that's ESBESTER, and then you'll find the page. You have to scroll down to the bottom of the page and you download an Excel file. So the actual kind of interface is pretty clunky, no offense, but then you get the Excel file and then you can just search for their name within there, and you never know. And within these, what they are, their registers of accident reports, some of the records, and so you'll be able to find out. And some of the accidents are really minimal, like they might have got their hand scalded by a cup of tea in the canteen, and others of them somebody's been crushed between two, what do you call those things? Buffers, not what could be buffers or couplings. You know what I mean? There's horrendous accidents, or
Yeah.
people inadvertently stepping out across the railway line, taking a sneaky shortcut is a classic one, when they should have used a safer way to cross the railway line, but they take a sneaky shortcut and don't see, a train coming the other way at high speed. So there's lots of gruesome injuries and accidents. Useful to see.
Yeah, I've for this guy, I mean, literally, I've only just learned that he worked on the railway, so I haven't done this. But I have used that register to check other people, but they didn't. So maybe I will nip back and do that. I've just had a look at the patient admission register, and there's no actual column for type of illness or anything. It just tells you the asylum, the discharge of or death date, and then that's it. I also found a document that it might not be this guy because it's set in the in between the time he's in the asylum of a prison sentence for being drunk and disorderly. It's the same area, but I don't know whether it's him. I can't officially tie this to him at all because the prison record only has his name. There's nothing to match it up to my Benjamin.
So I guess the other things you could do is you could do a quick search, the one to see whether there are any other people by that name of that rough age that you could put in that area that you could possibly get him in a muddle with. You could search online newspapers. Obviously, Find My Past is like the go-to place for looking for British newspaper collections. You could have a look in there to see whether any misdemeanors like drunken disorderliness have been reported in there. That could be useful to do.
Yeah. What is 18 minus 6?
12.
12. Interesting. So it would put this the reason I'm asking is because on this prison record it says the age of this person is 61 years old and it happened in 1906. My guy died in 1918 at the age of 73. So the age is a match.
Interesting.
Would you be sentenced to go to prison if you were in an institute already, though?
Well, he could be being let in and out. So Lisa Edwards, I don't know whether you remember this, but in Family Tree, over the years, she's written several articles about basically about poverty and mental health, and when people's lives take a turn for the worse, and it could be from any number of reasons. So she has instances in her own family history, which she's written about in the magazine. So I don't feel it doesn't hurt to talk about it now, and anyone who's a member of Family Tree Plus, you can look up her articles in our back catalogue. So you'll have ancestors who perhaps did have a large number of children who died, it had an impact on their mental health. We sometimes think, oh, well, our ancestors, our Victorian ancestors particularly, were used to the high mortality rate and it didn't take its toll on them, but it did. And you see these clear instances of people's lives nosediving, and their jobs go downhill because of trauma that they've suffered, and then they'll turn to alcohol more and to help support them, and it's kind of a vicious cycle of and a really understandable cycle of unhelpful behaviors which then affect their mental health more, and then all just and society at the time didn't really do much to help them. Not that it was particularly good at helping people now, but I think maybe we're a bit more compassionate about how we view these things. But so they would just be locked away and deemed a lunatic, or women with postnatal depression getting locked away for the rest of their lives. So that's just a temporary situation.
Well,
Yeah.
that's sad, isn't it? The only other thing I can see on this record, actually, it says that the occupation for this guy is a mill hand. So it doesn't match the railway aspect.
No.
But who knows? He could have had a job later on, couldn't he? Actually, on the death certificate, it still says plate layer. So maybe it's not my guy, this one.
Well, but on the other hand, I've had this where my ancestors get promoted on their death certificates. So what happens is because the informant is another useful person on the death certificate, and sometimes when people die in institutions, so for instance workhouses or that sort of situation, the informant won't necessarily be a family member. It could, if they've lost touch with their family, or they haven't there isn't a family member involved in that stage of their life, then the informant could just be an employee in the workhouse, but at other times, usually the informant was going to be a family member, isn't it? A spouse or a child, that sort of thing. So one of my great grannies, she promoted her husband. He worked in the police, and by the time I can't remember what it was, but on his death certificate, he sounds pretty swept up, like he's got a high position in the police, which he never had in any other record through his life, which he just kind of, tied up the knot of his life with a beautiful little promotion, which had no bearing on reality. So what I'm trying to say is, if your 3 times great granny is the informant on the death certificate, and if he was a plate layer for like a significant part of his life, and that's how he was when she met him, or for a significant part of their active marriage together, that's how she's going to view him. She's not going to view him as all the subsequent other chapters that he's had, and she's not going to kind of do a game of musical chairs and go, okay, at the time of death, you're actually being drunk and disorderly for the last few years. I'm not going to put that on your death certificate.
It's actually the acting resident officer who's actually registered this.
So he's going to have been told that potentially by her as well. It's like trying to think of where the information's coming from and what people's goal is with the information. And partly, like, I'm being a bit flippant saying about the promotion, but partly sometimes it's a sign of somebody's respect that they're trying to, it's the final record of somebody's life, and they're trying to record them in a respectful, decent manner. They're not trying to give a warts and all summary of their life. They're trying to say a good, succinct occupation, which reflects maybe a better part of their life.
Yeah, true. I'm not sure how I can solve this further.
I think you've got lots of different research things to do, so I don't want to give you another rabbit hole, but in principle, what you could do is do lots of more broad searching. And the newspapers, if you do want to confirm or not whether he's a drunk and disorderly guy, I'd look in the newspapers, and then because I think the more data points you can get for him, the more you can build up a picture of his life, like the trajectory of his life. Is it kind of going? Is it a bumpy ride on the occupation front? Which potentially it is if he's suffering bouts of mental ill health. That's going to make it hard for him to hold down a steady job in Victorian early 20th century times, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'll try and get lots of data points for him, and that will give you insights to. Sometimes you get this, don't you, when people are in and out of the workhouse or in and out of institutions. And it's a sad story either way. It's a sad story if they're incarcerated and aren't let out for the rest of their life or for many decades. And it's a sad story when you see people going in and out of the institutions as well, because that's a traumatic way to live.
Yeah. I think from looking at these documents, and again, I might be just making this guesswork, but it does look like he was pretty much in the entire time. But who knows? I guess it's something to dig deeper with. But again, it's a rabbit hole from a rabbit hole.
And yes, it is a rabbit hole. And you could research the institution. That would be really interesting to see the history of the institution.
Stop it.
But it's true though. Like I would save it for a happy phase in your life to do that, because you don't want to send yourself off seeing all these bleak institutional images.
No. Well, I mean,
you got to pick and choose what you're going to work on, haven't you?
yeah. Well, I found this quite emotional. I'd just done like a 10-mile run in the snow it was like a proper race, and I got home and did this, and I was absolutely spent. And like searching for the children was upsetting in itself, and then wondering where he was. Everything just really got really intense, and then to find this institutionalized document, and it upset me actually more than anything else I've seen. So yeah, dark times.
Should I change the subject to something a bit happier?
Go on, go for it. What have you been up to?
Well, I have been a bit naughty, and I haven't done as much of my own family history project, by building my family tree down and out, and forwards or whatever, because I've been doing other things. So I've been carrying on doing Carol McCulloch's AI bootcamp course, and what has been brilliant over the past week, she got us to use AI tools. So you could use ChatGPT, for instance, to make yourself a research plan. Yada, yada, in a way. Like I've done that before. I use ChatGPT to help me plan lots of things at work. But what the beauty of Carol's tip was, she said, when you're giving it a prompt, which is something I've never done before, which I definitely should be doing, is to tell the AI how much time you've actually got. So she said, get it to make a research plan for you and let it know how much time you've got to work on this plan over the next week or the next month, however long you want to work on this aspect of your family history. And that is a game changer for me because I set myself, as you'll know by now, doing the podcast with me, I have 1,000,001 goals, and you can bet your life that I've virtually finished nothing. Everything is a work in progress, which is a bit depressing. It does get me down a bit about myself because I just don't actually finish many things in my family history. I have a big long wish list. I've started lots of them. So suddenly having a time frame and go, right, I've got 2 hours to work on my family history this week, or I've got 4 hours to work on my family history. And then the AI model will say, spend this long doing this and spend this long doing that. And part of me feels like, but I want to spend longer. It's like, but Helen, you don't have longer. So if you can just have to do a slightly more smaller project or less in depth or whatever it is, that doesn't matter. At least you could get to the end of it. So I'm like, I love this. But I'm finding it hard to adjust to, but I do love it as a concept. What do you think?
Yes, it's an interesting idea and a little tutor for you, keeping you on track.
Mm.
'Cause it is so easy. We all do it, don't we? I'll nip on for 10 minutes and 3 hours later, you're
Yeah.
still doing it but you're miles away from where you started in a completely different place.
Yes, 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 and it kind of I feel really silly that it's not obvious to me, but people, I don't know whether you get this, but on Instagram or whatever, you see they have people who have time blindness and they talk about time blindness, and I'm definitely a time blindness person. I just always look at the clock and go, "What the heck? How did that happen?" That's so no, hold through, wake up in the morning and carry on saying that however many times through the day.
I think I'm the opposite. I'm a clock watcher.
Are you?
Yeah. Come
Hmm.
on, time, move.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. So anyway, I'm hoping this is, well, already it is proving really helpful to me, and it makes me think differently about the little steps of the project because I'm thinking not I want to do this and I wouldn't even put a time on it. I'd just do it until it's done or not done or part done until I move on to the next rabbit hole. So the AI thinks, told me, right, you've got 30 minutes to accomplish X, Y, and Z. So I'm thinking, right, how can I accomplish this in 30 minutes? I'm right, I'm going to have to move that to there. I'm going to have to jettison that aspect. I'm going to have to just focus on this. It's really helpful to me.
That's great.
Yeah, it is good, isn't it?
I don't know if I could use that, but
Yes. Well, so far it's working. I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
you've done things.
I've done things. I've already accomplished some things. Yeah.
That sounds good. That sounds like a win.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, talk about humans going down rabbit holes. AI goes down rabbit holes. So you ask it to do one thing. So, for instance, I've been saying, can you transcribe my grandpa's RAF logbooks, which is something I meant to do all last year. And AI, you could take a scruffy, it doesn't even have to be a particularly good photo. People say it needs to be a really good photo. I just took a photo and it had a shadow across the page. You know it's a suboptimal picture. But I was like, oh, I can't keep redoing things. I'm just going to have to whap it into the AI and see what it can do with it. So I popped it into Google Gemini. It didn't bat an eyelid. It transcribed it all beautifully, and then I had some little nitpicky things to make it do more what I wanted. Told it not to change anything, don't make anything up. Yeah, but then at the end of each page, it would go, "This is interesting. Do you want me to find out about this for you?" I was like, "No, we're just sticking with extracting the data. We're not going down." So I had to keep telling it to stop going down rabbit holes. So funny.
That is funny. I randomly told ChatGPT to give itself a name,
Oh yeah.
and it came up with the name Rowan. But it was likening that because of the work that I do on Family Tree, so it was like, making it tree oriented. So I told it off. I was like, "No, I want you to." I was trying to break it basically. I was like,
Yeah.
"I want you to choose a name for yourself that you really want. It's got to do nothing to do with me or anyone else. It's all really personal." I was trying to make it break and become human and like
Yeah.
take over the world. So it came up with the name Harry. Anyway, long story short, just from this one thing of getting it to come up with its own name, we ended up writing a song together, and it gave me some chords that I could play on my guitar and stuff. It was very strange.
It is very strange.
But
Yeah.
Who knew that was going to happen? It is quite tangential sometimes.
Mm. Mm. You could get it to make up a family history song for you.
We could. A new intro song.
Yes.
No, Helen, no. Is there anything else we need to cover on the death certificate? Because I feel like I hijacked it.
Well, what is a really good thing to do on our website? As ever, we have got really useful guides. So if people go to family-tree.co.uk, do the little search tip. So you put that into your search bar with a space, with a colon, and then with the words death space certificates. Then you'll come to our page about death certificates. So on there, we do cover death certificates, and you'll know this in the 101 thing, Nathan. So the English and Welsh records are kept together. Scotland, Scottish records are separate and Irish records are separate. And then after when Ireland splits into the Republic and Northern Ireland, they have their two. So you're potentially looking at 5 different record collections. And they start at different time periods. And so we've been concentrating on death certificates. So they're the civil records. So from 1837 for England and Wales, 1855, 1st of January 1855 onwards for Scotland, 1864 for Ireland. But so you're going to be needing to look for them in different places. And on our guide, we have all this information. But of course, death certificates are just one of the sorts of records relating to people's death. And we've touched in the past quite often on the national probate calendar entries that you can get on Ancestry for England and Wales and Scotland. You know, those little summaries where they say date of death, date of probate, names of the executors, the address, the person who's died, their last address, value of their estate. So they're really useful. Obviously, ordering wills, which sadly for England and Wales are now more expensive. They're 16 quid. And then, not to be forgotten, obviously there's the burial records, which are essential from when we get to before the civil registers of death, so before that mid-1800 period, but they also carry on being useful afterwards, don't they? Because people continue to be buried and records continue to be kept of burial records up until forever. So other places to look, which would be good, is Free Reg, which our lovely podcast listener Neil mentioned to us the other week. So Free Reg, that will cover, as well as baptism and marriage, register entries. It's going to cover burial registers. Burial register entries as well. And of course, family history societies, because over the years, like one of the kind of core beauties of family history societies is the work that they started doing right back in the 1970s and 1980s, transcribing memorial inscriptions. So going to graveyards and cemeteries and writing down what was said on those headstones, which was valuable at the time because it meant that people could get that information, you know, join the Family History Society, order a little booklet and get it sent to them with all the lists of all the gravestone wording in that parish church, for instance. But it's got even more valuable as time goes on, partly because these records have been digitised. So often if you join a Family History Society, as a member, you'll be able to access all of that wonderful work they've done themselves. Some of it, so there's a central burial index called the National Burial Index. That's available on Find My Past via the Family History Societies. All of the major websites would have burial register information as well. The burial register information isn't going to give you a comprehensive national collection, but you have to just see, does that website cover your county of interest? What's the completion rate like? Other places, of course, would be Family Search for their burial register entries. And we've touched on newspapers. So newspapers is good not just for people's, like we were talking about your ancestor, seeing what he got up to and what potentially he did, which was noteworthy in a good or bad way, which might have gone into the newspapers, but also for notices of people's death. So like the Hatch Match Dispatch, that's what it used to always be called. Those little brief notices of people's passing. What else is good? Oh, really good books. So publications like Pen and Sword publications, I think there's several titles, but it would be works like Records of Death. There's other records on gravestones and cemeteries. And it's I've just done this, just look for your precise parish of interest. Just Google it. And sometimes you can get a free database. Mainly you don't, but sometimes you strike lucky. You can get the information you need for your particular parish free online. Obviously for Scotland and Ireland, it's slightly different. So, but again, we cover that on our guide. So you're going to be going to Scotland's People for the civil records and for the parish burial records. For Ireland, Wonderful Ireland, although it gets lots of kind of gloomy reporting on how many records got destroyed, they do have on their Irish genealogy website, there's many free digitized records, not just the transcripts, but the whole beautiful digitized images freely available online. So that's really cool for all of Ireland up till 1922. So a short time period, 1864 to 1922, but that's pretty good. And then they obviously have more recent records as well for the Republic.
I mean, that's a lot.
Sorry, it's all on the guide. It's easier to read that sort of information because also when we're doing our family history, there's a lot of information to take in, isn't there? But basically, we don't need to remember all of that off the top of our head. We just need to know that in principle, if you're looking for an ancestor in Scotland, don't be looking in a record which only covers England because you're not going to find them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you only need to hold the bit of information that we need at the time for that ancestor in our head and know what the other possibilities and potentialities are.
Lovely.
Yeah.
You blow my mind a bit there. That was a lot of information.
But it doesn't stop there. So you said one of the key reasons that you loved ordering death certificates was the cause of death, but that could be a mystery in itself. Even once you see it written down, you've got the squirrely old handwriting, and it'll be saying some bygone medical term. So not only are you trying to read the handwriting, you're trying to read a word that you potentially never even seen in your life before, and so that can be hard to decipher. So there is a website which has loads of historic causes of death on it and illnesses, which I could quickly Google. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
I mean, I've done that a few times where I've literally just gone in and Google searched the words and it
Mm.
then gives you a quick summary of what it is in modern day terms, which is good.
It's really good. But you're right, Nathan. And it's a sad thing. Like talking back to AI, like AI with the responses it gives, the snippets, the AI overview that you get, for instance, at the top of a Google search. It is a kind of mixed blessing because it's a really good starting point, but partly it's unverified, so that's why it's a mixed blessing. You need to follow that link, track it down, cross check it, and partly it's a mixed blessing because people like the website, which I is gone clean off some head right now, who spent all those years gathering that information. The AI search return has just gone over to their website, snatched a bit of info, and then returned it at the top of the search results list, which means that they can miss out on website traffic, which is annoying for them.
Yeah, one of the downsides, I guess, of AI.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. And one of the kind of caveats, at least.
Mm.
And I think back to the burial records, then they're just as we're used to the actual paper records, so birth, marriage, or death records. They don't just name the person in question; they potentially name other family members as well, even death records, don't they, with the informant? Then even the gravestones as well. They can be really useful for mentioning other people, several members of the family all buried in the same plot, or even if they're not buried there, they might be memorialised on the stone there.
I've got one of those I found. I can't remember which church it is in Pudsey, but there's like at least 3 generations of the Ward family going back. So husband and wife, husband and wife, husband and wife. I've got them all on my tree now, but it's nice to see them all lumped together and brings all the facts together and says, yes, this is all right. So.
It does. It brings all the facts together, and it gives you a sense of like the family bonds that they wanted to be buried together. I like things like that because it makes you feel like they're like looking out for each other, or they loved each other, they're in contact. Yeah.
Mm.
I've got a photo which was taken probably in the 1920s or 1930s. So one of my ancestors has gone to visit a grave then, and they took a photo of the gravestone, which I just find mind-boggling because it's going back so much further. Yeah,
Right.
it's a gravestone which has got several people mentioned on it, one of whom died in the First World War. So I think they're just going to be memorialised on that stone. They've just added that person's name to the grave. It's kind of cool though.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Because it feels like that person's effectively doing family history 100 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't realise they were the family history of the future.
Warming it up for you.
Yes. 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 Yeah. I've only got one of those, I think. Yeah. It's still cool when I found it in the album. I was like, wait a minute. Somebody after my own heart. Yeah. So I think that is everything for the minute. So Nathan, what do we think? You can answer. I'm going to put you on the spot, and you can answer yes or no. Shall we make it next week that we have a go at finding some Scottish connections for you, or should we do it? So we can promise it's next week. Should we see how we go? And sometime in the next few weeks, we'll do that.
Yes, definitely. We'll definitely do it. I guess I need to double check where I'm at on my tree because I think I got back as far as the parents of a family moved down to Pudsey. So it's the next generation back that will have fully lived in Scotland.
Mm.
Maybe I'm all right. Maybe I could sit there and we can do some live searching. I don't know.
Mhm.
What do you think?
I think let's give it a go.
Okay.
I love running the gauntlet. There must be the button we want around here somewhere.
Yeah, let's give it a whirl. So that's something
Give
for
it
everyone
a
to look
whirl.
forward to.
Yes, watch this chaos space. Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for listening, and do tune in because we will always have lots of exciting information about family history in our podcast. And so we look forward to you joining us next week, and have a lovely week doing your family history in the meantime.
Happy researching.
Bye.